So what I want to share with you, the following. I'm sorry I'm a little late. Today was one of those days. 3 Nicham Avelims. I mean, not complaining, but I went to 3 Shiva houses today, and I also had a flat tire. So one of those days that, I couldn't fix it. I had to go bring it. So I got a little delayed, and it was all taken course of the day. So forgive me. And that's really the subject of my little talk, because I went to, I was apologizing that it's been a long day, a lot of the 3 Shiva calls and a flat tire, and I came late, and all because one thing led to the other, and the whole day segued one to the other with delays one after another. So what I was going to share later is I came across recently, so I went to a Shiva house and I heard a story, and I was really taken by it, and it was on my mind, because early in the day, when I started thinking about what am I going to write my essay this week, so I was, thinking around, and I found it interesting. In this week's parsha, we have a mitzvah loisase. Hisham l'cha b'neges haras. A person, if God forbid, has a neges haras, so you're not allowed to peel it off. Lo yakutz b'harta. You're not allowed to take it off. You have to let it go its course. Don't try to remove it, because you remove it, maybe you remove the tumah. If God afflicts you with something, don't remove it. That's a special halacha. So okay, a mitzvah. You have a saras. Don't try to tamper with it. And then the next pasuk says, "Zachar Hashem lekecha Miriam b'derech Teichman." Look what happened to Miriam when they left Mitzrayim. She spoke about her brother because Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of Haloischa, he refrained from being with his wife because he was on a different nevuah. She thought she was on the same level of nevuah, yet we're staying with her husbands. Why do you have to refrain? She did it for the right purpose. And what happened was that they had to wait for her for 7 days. The whole camp, the whole Jewish people waited. That's what it says. So remember. So the simple pshat in the pasuk is, tzaras comes to Lashon Hara. And look what happened. She was also afflicted with tzaras. And look what happened. Not only was she afflicted with tzaras, the whole Klal Yisrael had to wait for her. And look what happened. And she didn't get any special privileges, even though she was Miriam. And that should remind people, bring the point home, that if you speak Lashon Hara, it's no good. That's one way of learning the pasuk. That's a simple pshat, and certainly that's true. But I found in one of my favorites for him, maybe you remember, I quote this often. So about 13 years I've been quoting from the Sefer. It's called Sifsei Kayin. His name is Rabbi Mordechai Kayin from Sfas. He was from the students of the Arizal, the generation of the Beis Yosef and others like that. And he writes a Sefer, a beautiful Sefer, Sifsei Kayin, and he says a whole different shot in the pasuk. When I saw it, I said, "Wow, it's amazing." He says the pshat in the pasuk is Hisham l'cha b'neged haras. When something bad happens to you, lo yakutz bar, don't peel it off. It means if God is sending you something, don't be so perturbed. Accept it. There's a plan. There's a reason. Something's going on. We know this lesson. We heard it many times. But that's and the proof is Zachar asher asa. Look what happened to Miriam. She took it on the chin. She knew. Look, the whole class was waiting. It's an embarrassment, but she accepted it. She didn't protest. She took it on the chin. She did it, even though it was a public disgrace in a sense. She was publicly castigated for what she did. Nevertheless, she took it, and she didn't complain. It's an amazing pshat in the pasuk. It's one of the sheis chira, so no one ever thinks that's the pshat. And imagine every day you remember. It says, when things come your way, there's a purpose, there's a rhyme, there's a reason. It's for our benefit, and something we know it empirically, but we know it because that's what Amun is. But to live it is a really different story. When you get a flat and, ruins your whole day. So sometimes the challenge for the little people like me. Miriam's a bigger challenge, waiting the whole class. I have to wait for 7 days. But each one of us has our own little challenges in the day when things go wrong. So interesting. So it's funny that I saw this morning, and I went to visit a Talmud of mine, someone I taught for 2 years in L.A., and Eula's name is Ephraim Becker. Maybe some of you wife, Backer. Anyway, a beautiful family. Never they lost a son several years ago, Hananya Backer, in a car accident, Erev Tisha B'Av, the funerals on Tisha B'Av. A family I'm very close to. Anyway, I went to Menachem Ovlim. It's an old Talmud from my LA days. And he told me the following story. He was sitting shiva for his brother, and his brother never married. He had some health problems over the years. He was a musician. He was a kind man. He had religious feelings. I don't know if he was as observant as his brother, but he was connected to Ephraim and Bathsheba's children, and he would send him Hanukkah geld. He was a musician who really appreciated music. He would send them guitars and mandolins, and several of the kids learned how to play. He's a wonderful man. So obviously he lived in inspired. He had health issues, never married. But this was a legacy. He left a legacy of warmth and understanding and caring, and he was lovingly devoted to his family. Shine. So Ephraim heard about his brother died. He was a man only 65 or so. And he has to start getting into all the, so suddenly, because of, they weren't sure clear what he died from, not suspicious circumstances, but for some reason, the coroner in Sacramento, he lived in Sacramento, said we have to do an autopsy to make sure we can verify the cause of death. Right? And that's a big problem. Now, in Sacramento is not necessarily the biggest Jewish community with the biggest clout. So Ephraim was bereft. He says, "Here, look, a poor guy, lived his whole life alone, never married. I mean, he obviously had friends and this and that. He made a mark in the world, and he had music and things like that. And he was close, but nevertheless, now he's got to worry about getting an autopsy, nivel mess, and all that. What do we need this for? It's the first thing, like he has to travel the other side, and then he had to figure out how's he going to, so he went, shy. So he said, what's he going to do? So first he tried calling the coroner's office. They said, this is the rule. Under these circumstances, we got to verify and make. So anyway, so he called, there's another old friend of mine, Irving Lebovitz, the dentist in Los Angeles, who heads the Aguda office in Los Angeles. And, they have good relationship with the LA coroner. So I think it'll call the LA coroner, and the LA coroner will call the Sacramento one, buddies. Meanwhile, Sacramento coroner said nothing doing. And this Dr. Lebovitz says, first he tried calling, the coroner wouldn't talk to him, and even the LA coroner couldn't do it. So they didn't know what to do. So meanwhile, Ephraim Backer's son-in-law, his name is Zach Schnitzer. You may know the Schnitzer. Some of you may know the Schnitzer family. They live here in one of their children. Zach married a daughter from the Backer family. He figured, what do you do? I'll look in the phone book. I'll see where's the Chevra Kadisha innocently. I'll see a Chevra Kadisha located in Sacramento. I'll reach out to the Chevra Kadisha. Meanwhile, he reached out to Chevra Kadisha. Sure enough, it's a Lubavitcher Rav out. It's actually called suburban California. It's near Sacramento. It's a greater Sacramento area, but it's not exactly there. But he's the representative of the Chevra Kadisha organization out there. And so this innocently calls, just a figure, we'll call it Chevra Kadisha. Meanwhile, it turns out that this guy, Rabbi Grossbaum, who's involved with the Chevra Kadisha out there, and he's listed on this website, he happens to have a connection, and the Sacramento coroner is as an appointed position. So, and he knew some officials, some political guys, and they had the clout. One call did it, and it all stopped. Meanwhile, as he was talking to this gross, I said, "Look, I got a comment." He says, "Okay." So now, but he said, his brother died in Sacramento, and his brother was being taken care of the funeral home in Sacramento. Sacramento said, because of COVID, we don't do taharis. Because of COVID, we're not going to do taharis. Meanwhile, because Grossman was involved, and he said, I do taharis, even in COVID, I take precaution, I do it. So he this fellow ended up, this Ephraim's brother, ended up getting a tahara because of the whole commotion. If it wouldn't have been for the commotion of the coroner saying that they need an autopsy, and then reaching out to this one and that one, and finally making an innocent call to some other guy who was a Chavdish who was in a city nearby, who was close enough to be able to come and volunteered. So you see, you started off with like, oh, I got a flat tire. My brother needs an autopsy, like a lach in the cup. That's what an autopsy is. So, I didn't mean to say a joke, but sorry. I didn't mean to anyway. So he said, like, what do I need? He thought it was like, what do I need? I have to travel and all this. And he thought it would take days, maybe have to get an injunction, a lawyer. Meanwhile, because of that whole thing, because he auctions the coroner, they had to make efforts. They had to reach out and innocently get to this other guy who ended up making it happen. And he was the one, because he was involved. He said, I'll do it. If it wouldn't have geschmiert right away, and they would have said, okay, no autopsy. So he would have said, okay, COVID, no Tara, because they were involved, and he heard. Amazing. It's amazing. Hashem looks after us. So, lo yakutz b'hartei. Lo yakutz means don't peel it off. It also means, lo yakutz means don't despise the difficulties in life. Every difficulty has a purpose. Every difficulty has a purpose. Most often we don't know the reason. Sometimes, like in this story, you see it all revealed. But we know for sure in our hearts, we know for sure it's MS. And that I think was an amazing lesson I heard just today when I saw that Sifsei Kain this morning. So I thank Hashem for putting all the pieces of the puzzle. Saved me also to be able to say something tonight. And that's what I leave you with. It's a great lesson in life. So next time you get a flat. Meanwhile, my car's flat and I have to share a car with my wife. So I'll have to deal with that. But in COVID, I don't go too far anyway. So tomorrow my wife's working from home, not from, I usually drive her, but it's all good. Anyway, everyone have a great night and thank you for coming. And we will continue our journey in Chizuk in every day. Thank you. Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye. I'm signing off.